ain't that you can't see, cause you can find it, homes, it's that you don't want to. You cope by putting the blinders on. I've been trying to find some kind of way, but I've kind of known that y'all.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw from June 6th, 2022. No news and notes, not a lot to discuss on that regard, other than some people are finally starting to catch up with this whole Stephanie McMahon thing, where people are now starting to go back and read some of the articles about her performance. And I'm not sure when I mentioned it, but I'm pretty sure I was one of the few channels that mentioned that Stephanie McMahon's jobs were sponsorships. And that WWE was underperforming on sponsorships. I think I talked about it during the Q1 call when the investors mentioned it. It was something that had been brought up in Guggenheim before that. She had absorbed some of the former VP's powers and abilities, and she had also absorbed some of her responsibilities, and getting sponsorships up was one of those things. And WWE was comparing their sponsorships, I believe, to UFC, and found that they were doing less than half, maybe even a little over a third of what UFC was doing. And so it kind of became a question, especially in the investor call, of whether Stephanie was actually doing a good job. So now everybody, I think the Mad Men podcast are trying to be like, oh yeah, well, this is what we think it is. It's like, come on. That's obviously what it is. All you need to do is listen to the investor call. It was pretty obvious. This whole Stephanie McMahon is taking a step down thing is about her performance. You know, it still could be family. You know, all that could also be true. And maybe they'll see if it's Stephanie or if it's the company. I think that's pretty much what I said is it that Stephanie is having a difficult time selling the company to sponsors? Or is it that Stephanie just was not that good at that job? But we'll see eventually. But everybody's trying to act like they unveiled some type of revelation. It's like, no. People went back and paid attention to things that they weren't paying attention to before. Which is typical of the wrestling media. You know, they don't pay attention to things at the time. They come back to it later. All right, so let's get into the show. Cody's back. That Cody, you can't get rid of him. He's not going nowhere. All right, so interestingly enough, a lot of doctors, like there's YouTube medical YouTube. A lot of those guys pounced on the Cody Rhodes wrestling with a torn pec. And I watched 2 or 3 of those videos. And the one recurring thing is, it was already torn completely off the bone. Ain't much more you could do to it. And I was like, I think I said that. I don't have no medical degree. But I figured that's what it was. I figured that, you know, the only way you would wrestle with it is if you couldn't do any more damage to it. So Cody is out here today. And rest in peace, DJ K-Slay, because Cody was the drama king. He is the drama king now. Cody is now drama king because all he does is drama. He cried 3 times in this segment alone. I'm telling you, Cody is he's really hamming it up. So he says he doesn't want any praise for what happened at Hell in a Cell by him coming out there with that torn pec. It's a privilege to do what he does. And he says that the tearing his pec was demoralizing, but he doesn't want to be downtrodden. He used a lot of synonyms for downtrodden. And then said, I talked a lot about the Rhodes family. I talked a lot about my father. There's another Rhodes I hope to introduce y'all to one day. For a lot of y'all know that I have a daughter. He said he wants to show his daughter that tape, that video, to show that when times were at their darkest, that he wasn't jaded or cynical, that he stood up and fought. He got real emotional, breathed really heavily. That's how you know he mean it. He was fired up. His jaw was clenched. This was Cody Tears Part 1. Because he wants Little Liberty to know her daddy never gave up in the face of a torn pec. In the face of Hell in a Cell, he stood up. He fought anyway. He's a hero. An American hero. That still calls himself a nightmare. He declared that he was officially done with Seth Rollins. And he says he wants to talk now about the thing that dangles above his head, which was the Money in the Bank briefcase. Says that Money in the Bank has eluded him his entire career. And in 4 weeks' time, if it could be possible for him to climb the ladder of success, retrieve that briefcase, and become WWE Universal World Heavyweight Champion, however that goes. I don't even know how that thing goes. Seth Rollins comes out. He's limping. Looks a little bit humbled. Says that he doesn't like Cody. But after seeing what Cody put himself through, he has his respect. Cody's the toughest guy he's ever been in the ring with. And that, no doubt, Dusty is proud of his baby boy right now. Cody cries, part 2. He's hamming it up. I told you, man, Cody's hamming it up. They shake hands, and Seth Rollins pulls him in and whispers something to his ear, and he walks away. And you're thinking, oh, this is nice. How nice of Seth freaking Rollins. How nice of him. But then the camera lingered on Cody a little long, and Cody was out there like Ronald Reagan or something like that. He was standing out there like he was, goddamn JFK. And that's the thing. I think it's Cody's character is that he's a politician. I think that's his gimmick. The emotional appeals, the stand-in speeches. He just comes across like such a politician. Even his teeth aren't real. I think I said that before. Like, you look at Cody's teeth, like, everything about him is just well put together. It's so well crafted that you don't know what's real and what isn't when it comes to Cody. I'm pretty sure those aren't even his real teeth. Not anymore, anyway. He probably had his whole damn mouth reconstructed. And because Cody is a politician, he's waving like a beauty queen in the ring, and he's still selling the peck, though. Like, if you watch that segment, he still got his hand on his peck, like he had his hand on his heart, and he's still waving to the crowd while his hand's on his peck. And I'm just like, oh, this guy. And they lingered and lingered. I'm like, okay, what's about to happen? And it wasn't until he got into the aisleway, I was like, oh, Seth Rollins about to attack him again. Sure as shit ain't sugar, Seth Rollins attacked him, blasted him in the head with the sledgehammer, beat the clothes off of him, ripped his clothes off, stabbed him in the chest with the sledgehammer, grinding the sledgehammer in his torn pec, stomping the torn pec. Some officials, Petey Williams and Joe Henning, a.k.a. Curtis Axel, they were out there to stop this nonsense, and they eventually do so after Seth Rollins gets all he want to get out of Cody. So this thing, apparently, it's over, but it's not really over. It's over in so much that Cody cannot really respond. And then we get Cody's Oscar award-winning segment after commercial. We go to commercial, we come back, Cody's still on the ground selling. And I'm telling you, pay attention to the little things in this as Cody is going through this dramatic Meryl Streep-like acting. He's just going through it. He's struggling to get back to his feet. And he takes like an official's hand for a moment, then moves it away. Like real dramatically, like he kind of reaches over for help. But then as soon as the official touches his hand, he yanks it away. Like, like that pride won't let him do it. Like he's reaching. And every time somebody touches him, he kind of shirks away from them. And he's shaking a little bit. Then he finally stands. And the crowd's like, yeah! I'm like, oh, I can't believe this shit is working. I cannot believe Cody with this. He a big ham sandwich. And it's working. People are really buying it. That's dedication to craft, man. That's dedication to craft. Cody is something else. He is a wholly original. He reminds me a little bit of Shawn Michaels in the mid-90s. In that Shawn used tears and emotional appeals to manipulate people. But Cody is more of a politician than Shawn is. Shawn was, he was the boy toy. He was more flamboyant. He's a little bit more fun. Cody is, deadly serious, suit and tie corporate type. But like I said, he's like a cutthroat politician. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get a podium one day just so he can pontificate for 10 to 15 minutes in the middle of the ring about something. I don't know what. Anything. But he is, right now, probably one of the purest baby faces in the business. He's playing sympathy up. He's not missing any chance at tension. He's not missing any chance at heat. He is really, really, really going in. He's really going in. And it seems like, and it's an odd thing because WWE is coming across like AEW in this regard, where everything that involves Cody is serious, even though like they went straight into the comedy right after this. And right after the Cody segment where it's all dramatic and, you know, your dad will be proud of you. You're a tough son of a bitch. You know, there's respect. It's man shit. It's masculine, but it's also heelish and cowardly and callous. It's the kind of stuff you kind of want from a wrestling show. And then they immediately go into goofy shit. Becky Lynch and her goofy spy glasses, and she's wrestling Dana Brooke. And I was just kind of like, huh? I'm like, okay, well, you know, she's going to get this win, quick win, and that's going to be it. You know, Becky Lynch hits her a couple of times, and here come the 24/7 gang. And I was like, what the F? Why are they hanging around here? Akira Tozawa finds his way into the ring, and Dana Brooke pins him during her match with Becky Lynch and wins the title. So Becky Lynch gets mad and says, no, nobody wins titles in my matches except me, and demanded a 24/7 title match before threatening to destroy the 24/7 division if anybody interfered. This was immediately a controversial decision because people are like, what on earth are you doing with Becky Lynch where she's wrestling for the 24/7 title? You know, and seriously wrestling for the 24/7 title, not, you know, joking around, like taking real bumps and shit. And doing stuff for Dana Brooke, making Dana Brooke look solid, you know, as far as she could, as much as possible. So Asuka comes out there to interrupt later. So we got a lot of interruptions going on here. Asuka tries to distract Becky Lynch to try to score the roll up for Dana Brooke. It doesn't work. Later, Dana Brooke does a jackknife pin. Asuka holds the leg, and Becky Lynch is pinned by Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke retains the 24/7 title against Becky Lynch. And I know a lot of people were like, what? It was like, it was like your head melted, your flesh sloughed off your face, and the muscle and tendons beneath just popped and melted. There were so many people looking like, what the fuck? Dana Brooke just beat Becky Lynch. And it probably won't be remembered in 2 weeks, but it happened. It happened. Now, the understanding of this isn't just that Asuka interfered. It's also that Becky Lynch is title obsessed. She is now starting to basically crave any title. You know, she can't win the Raw Women's title, so now she wants, you know, the 24/7 title. She just wants it. She just wants to have a belt. You know, it validates her ego to have a title of any kind. This is why, you know, she was super excited to be the SmackDown Women's Champion and then transitioned that to being a Raw Women's Champion. Now it's just about being a champion in general and not being able to be seen in public without a title. You know, it's central to her character, central to her personality. And we see how it's like, I think she's going through like a drug addict type of thing. You know, when you look at drug addicts, right? And they start out with harder or softer, more expensive drugs. I think, you know, cocaine would be one of those things. But then as, you know, you kind of need it more and more, it gets the habit gets a little bit more expensive. You start to see that deterioration. And now you're, you know, sucking dick for crack. You know, I think that this is her version of sucking dick for crack. Is that she wants to have the title so badly that she's even willing to wrestle for the 24/7 title. And she loses even that. So she's so distracted and so preoccupied with being the best that she doesn't understand that she's degrading herself. And I think that's a story that they were telling here, and it's a story we've been telling for a little while now when it comes to Becky Lynch. And it started with her being in fur coats and wearing crowns and everything when she was the women's champion over a year ago in 2019, 2020. You know, her ego was getting out of control. And that's what big time Becky is, you know, some people have said they don't really understand the character. And that really was the character arc, is that you had Becky Lynch, who was underrated. You know, when she was doing the steampunk thing, she was good, but nobody was paying attention. Not really. The hardcore fan base cared, but nobody else did. And then she broke through by being the man. And that was her peak. And she was on the top of the business. Nobody could beat her. She was champion for a long time. She was main eventing shows. She was selling more merchandise than anybody. She was arguably the top star in the company, male or female. And as such, her ego started to get out of control. You know, the longer she was champion, she main evented WrestleMania. She had done everything that, you know, done things that women had not done. So she started kind of feeling herself. And you started seeing the outward manifestation of that in terms of her wearing fur coats when she never wore a fur coat before. Then she started wearing big ignorant crowns. And, you know, she started really talking about herself in the third person, demand this and demand that. And then she got pregnant. She went away for a while. And then she came back, and it was essentially, they just picked up where they left off. She won the title very quickly from Bianca Belair by sort of being cheap, you know, a little thumb to the eye. And now, you know, it's all ego. And so now this is what she is now. Like all of this deranged look that she's put on with the makeup and the face and the wild hair and everything is supposed to denote the turmoil that's going on within her. This is artistic. It's an artistic endeavor. So we're looking at it's a visual medium also. So you have to be able to look at the character and say that, okay, something is obviously clearly wrong with Becky Lynch. How she went from black motorcycle jackets to the kind of space age crap that she's wearing now. And it's clearly a change in her inner self, where she was sort of, I guess you could say, ahead of the class as far as being ahead of everybody else at the time, you know. And now she's futuristic, where she's looking into the future, kind of. But it's an interesting character arc for Becky Lynch, and now she's slumming it with the 24/7 crew, completely lost in who she was or who she is, and her ego will not allow her to see other people succeed, even if it's just Dana Brooke in the 24/7 title. She hated to see that happen. I don't believe for a second there was any question she wasn't going to win it. Of course she wasn't going to win it. What the fuck was going to do with it? So this means a lot for Dana Brooke, I'm sure. But WWE would just probably have Becky Lynch knock the shit out of her next week or something like that in record time, just to get back on track. But this was a very interesting character moment. I think this was very enlightening, you know, in terms of telling people where Becky Lynch is going as a character and how far she's fallen off, and that she's actually going backwards, you know, because she's so off focus. She's so not in the pocket that she was in before. That, you know, the first starters, and to go back to the character arc, she didn't really need to cheat that much when she was the man, you know. But now she's big time back. She needs to cheat all the time, you know. It's just a way of trying to assure that she wins. And then these times where these things blow up in her face. So the Asuka and Becky Lynch thing is going to continue. I mean, okay, sure. I don't know how much. I think that's going to be a Money in the Bank match. Or, you know, I'm talking about they'll put them in the Money in the Bank match. Okay, sure, whatever. We'll talk about that more later. All right. June 27th. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. John Cena will be back, I guess, to start his big push towards his feud with Theory, or Austin Theory. That ought to be interesting. I'm interested in seeing what he comes back to do. I'm not surprised that they actually advertise it this time. It was nice for them to not advertise it before to make it a surprise. But, them advertising it this time means that they have something planned for it. All right. We'll talk more about John Cena later. All right. So the Miz out there with Maurice, who seems to be one of the few women on the planet who becomes more beautiful the older she gets. I mean, look at the melons on her chest. My God, bro. Maurice is bad. Girl, fine. Ugh. It made me almost forget she's a dirty Canadian and not like real Paris French. Anyway, they're doing a promo with Riddle. And this promo is absolutely bizarre. It really got off the rails quick. So Riddle hopes Randy is okay, but speaks some really bad French to Maurice, who says, he said, "I only do fromage," which I remember from the episode of Dexter's Laboratory, which I took French in middle school. I took French and Spanish. I did not good in either one of them. Worst. I mean, Spanish was fine because we got to sing La Bamba every time. We had a Spanish teacher that liked to have a guitar. And we would always just pressure her to sing La Bamba. I didn't give a shit about Spanish class. Just sing La Bamba. Anyway, Riddle says that, he hopes Randy Orton comes back soon, unlike his stepdad. To which Miz was like, okay, look, no more. This is nonsense. Randy Orton's career is over, and you're going to get your ass whooped every week by the bloodline. So, that's kind of how this is going to go. And Riddle says that he's going to challenge Roman Reigns for the title. And that it's weird that Cena gets to play Peacemaker while Miz plays Homemaker, and he's got Reese leads him around by his tiny balls. This led to a tiny balls chant. And then Maurice tries to fix things by saying that Mike has average balls. And then she said he has above average balls. Then he has big balls. And he has huge balls. He got the hugest balls in the history of the world. And Miz, of course, is feeling a little bit more confident as, Maurice changes her tune about the size of his balls. And then the part that made me laugh is when Riddle just told them to prove it. And I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean? Like, it hadn't even occurred to me that we was going to talk about a fight at this point. Because they had been talking about balls for the last 2 fucking minutes. And people are chanting for balls and everything. I'm like, wait a minute. So Riddle's saying prove it took me off guard. It was fucking hilarious. Miz then says that this is the season premiere of Miz and Mrs., which is apparently after this episode. I didn't watch it, so I don't know. And he says, I'm in a tuxedo. The way he said it was fucking hilarious. He tuxedo. It was so funny. They say he's not going to fight because he's in tuxedo for his season premiere. This is so retarded. So Miz leaves the ring. Ciampa then attacks Riddle from behind because Ciampa is the ghost. He just attacks guys and nothing matters. After seeing Ciampa beat up Riddle, now Miz wants to fight. Classic Miz. He wants to fight after you've been beat up a little bit. So Miz in his tuxedo versus Riddle. And Riddle, of course, rips Miz's pants off in this match. And, all the sexual harassment that took place in this match. Riddle wins the match with an RKO. And as he got his pants ripped off, people chanted tiny balls at him. I was like, oh boy. The Miz is just a doormat. Again, the Miz, you can beat the Miz every week. It doesn't mean anything. He's just as over this week as he is next week. It could be a squash match. It could be a 10-minute, 20-minute affair. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times you beat the Miz. He's going to be fine. So, this doesn't matter. But it helps Riddle, especially considering he wants to be a single star now. So, it helps. The Street Profits defeated the Usos by count out. I don't know when the last time these teams have wrestled each other, but it seemed like a waste of time to give us a championship contenders match on TV between two teams that haven't wrestled each other in a long time. It seems silly. It seems like you're setting up, again, goddamn rematches. no matter how good the match is, if I got to watch it again next week, I'm frustrated. I don't want to see the same show again and again and again and again and again and again. I don't want that. That's boring. That sucks. Do something else. Speaking of doing something else, Lashley came out there. He's got a monster reaction too, by the way. These people are really loving Lashley, and they're smart people. They're good people. They understand that Bobby Lashley did the Hurt Business. He did the WrestleMania 37. He did the WrestleMania 38. He did the Hell in a Cell 2021 with Drew McIntyre. He was the United States champion. He did the Lashley's Lounge. He did the Lashley's Ladies. Let's fucking go. And Lashley was, out here saying how he considered MVP family, and that his MVP thing, really weighs heavily on his heart. Austin Theory interrupted and told him that he doesn't care. He doesn't deserve to be out there. He need to get out. And I was like, wow. Austin Theory got a lot of nerve coming out here talking to Bob Lashley like that, especially being all small and stuff. So, Theory claims that he won his match alone. So this is his ring. Lashley says, no, sir, this is my ring. Then Lashley challenged him to a fight. Austin Theory agreed to the fight and then said, before we fight, check out my bicep. To which, of course, Lashley compared his Austin Theory's childish bicep to the massive mastodon of a bicep to our good buddy Bobby Lashley. Lashley said, since you're so confident, why don't you put the U.S. title on the line? Austin Theory was like, no, you don't deserve it. So after some sort of cajoling, Lashley clearly isn't going to get what he wants. But Austin Theory insists on getting what he wants, which is that selfie. So he turns around to get the selfie, and Lashley kicks him in the ass outside the ring. He kicked him in the ass and kicked him outside the ring. Oh boy. I don't know when this match is happening, if it even happening. But I didn't mind this segment. I didn't hate this. Austin Theory is a kid. He's getting too big for his britches. The Vince McMahon cosign has really gotten him feeling himself. So I like it. He's arrogant for a reason. He's cocky for a reason. But don't put Lashley in this situation for, to lose to Austin Theory. But he also should never win the U.S. title again. It's like, what good could be done with it? And a lot of people are like, what about Ali? I'm like, look, you saw Hell in a Cell, buddy. You saw Hell in a Cell. You know what's up with Ali. He's back to catering, bruh. Hope the boiled chicken tastes good. Hope it's juicy and actually, well seasoned. Because you're going to be in catering for quite a bit. For quite a spell, young brother. All right. Dominic Mysterio wasted our time wrestling Veer Mahan. And Veer Mahan won by the disqualification because Ray saved his son from the horrible clutch thing that Veer Mahan does, a nerve clutch. Dominic is truly channeling his real dad, Eddie Guerrero, with this mullet that he insists on growing. He insists on growing this mullet. Dominic hit a frog splash, late into the match, and Veer kicked out at 1. Interestingly enough, this was the first time I think Veer had ever been put down. Well, since his return, he had been put down, and somebody tried to pin him. So it's a small victory for young Dominic. I still think Dominic would do better in NXT. He needs to be down there full time, if we're being honest. Veer lands the $1 million lariat before Ray comes in there to break everything up. And I don't know. It seemed like a perfectly good waste of Rey Mysterio to me. Like, yeah, you wasted Ray on this one. The stem cells, brother. Like, did the stem cells not kick in right? Why is Ray not wrestling? Why is Ray not, in the middle of something important? He's in the middle of this shit. I know that Veer is probably a high-value prospect for them due to his background, but they're not even using his background right now. So he's just generic heel, and Mysterios aren't talking. Like, there's not enough promos from the baby faces and vignettes and things. There's just not enough of that stuff. You know, let's get some people over. I don't understand this. Let Ray talk. For fuck's sake. He's been around for so long. I know he's not the best promo in the world, but shit. He should... Somebody's got to add some spice and some intrigue to this fucking feud. Because this sucks. This whole Mysterio is Veer Mahan thing. I don't even understand it. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. It makes sense from the perspective of he attacked them, you know, but that was about it. That was weeks ago, bruh. You know, how many times you got put on the show since? At some point, when will you realize it cannot be done? Like, when will you get it? All right, now let's get to the thing that everybody wants to talk about. The Judgment Day Swerve. So, the Judgment Day comes out. Edge, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley. Rhea cuts a promo saying that control is an illusion. That they let their opponents last night think that they can win, but they never had a chance. And that Judgment Day is destined to win because they don't have limitations. Damian Priest put over Rhea Ripley on how dominant she is and how amazing she is before Edge took the mic. Edge says that they did what they said they were going to do, and that he wanted to stop and acknowledge how proud he is of Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley and how well they're progressing, and that they listened to him, and that the message that he's been trying to spread is actually spreading. It's going. And they had the ticker because they wanted us to know that there was going to be a new Judgment Day member. And we had to see it. We had to be there to see it. And they very anticlimactically said, you know, the locker room is loving our message. Here comes our new member. And then here comes Finn Balor. And I was like, oh yeah, this is clearly some type of hook. You know, they're about to beat Finn Balor's ass. And I figured that's what was about to happen. They're about to beat his ass. And he comes down there, he gets in the ring, him and Edge shake hands. I'm like, okay, so either he about to turn on Edge or Edge is about to, you know, they about to whip his ass because he was just their opponent last night. And it was very, very, very anticlimactic. And then Finn Balor cuts the promo saying that, Edge first cuts the promo saying that Finn Balor is a game changer and that he did the right thing, you know. But how did this come to pass? How did you come to talk to Rhea and Priest about joining Judgment Day? So Finn Balor says that that this was his calling, and it was something he refuses to ignore, and that he is tired of trying to be something he's not. Saw the conviction and fire in Edge's eyes when they fought each other, and how impressive Rhea Ripley was, and knew this was the right thing to do. And said that after talking to Rhea and Damian Priest, he realized that they all have a lot in common, and that he's tired of being told what to do. And Edge is like, yes. Damian Priest gets the microphone and says that they're tired of being held back and they need to get rid of their very last limitation, which is Edge. And Edge was like, like had the little puppy dog like, and Damian Priest just levels him. And it was like, this beatdown was like, it was like Nikki and Casino. You seen Casino, right? And that scene where they get the baseball bats and they take them to Nikki's knees, that's how this felt for me. Because I was like, man, you know, Nikki is he's a piece of shit throughout the entire movie. But goddamn, you don't want to watch a guy get beat with baseball bats. Like, that's fucked up. You know, like, it's completely and totally fucked up. And you could tell that the crowd wasn't sure how to respond to this, so they just responded with shocked silence. Like, Edge went down, like, boom, and everybody was like, wait a minute. Even I was like, huh? And then when Damian Priest started to kick Edge, I'm like, wait a minute. And when Rhea Ripley started to kick him, I was like, oh shit. Edge starts to fire back into the corner, but the crowd is not behind him because Edge has been a miserable prick for the last 3 months. So, yeah, nobody's behind him. And Finn Balor was one of the most beloved baby faces on the roster. Nobody's ready to boo him. So we're just watching this shit, trying to make heads or tails out of it. We're like, are we supposed to not like Finn Balor here? Like, he's whooping Edge's ass. Edge's been talking shit about us for weeks, but at the same time, it's 3-on-1. Rhea Ripley's a dickhead. Damian Priest is a dickhead. What's going on? So Edge continuously tried to fight back. Ended up making it worse for himself. They ended up doing a razor's edge to Edge on the floor. They continued pounding him because he still showed life. So they continued whooping his ass. I mean, they whooped his ass so bad. It's just such an incredibly long-lasting ass whooping. They took the bar off the chair like he did to the Usos and put the bar in his mouth and stretched his neck. They, Pillmanized him and concertoed him and just beat the tar out of fucking Edge. It was a murder. This time they actually did try to do something. They had officials run to the ring, but Rhea Ripley was swinging a chair to keep everybody away. So Balor and Priest and Rhea Ripley just dumped Edge out of his own group. And this is the one thing I think everybody wants to talk about because it's so crazy. It was let's slow down. This is Russo-rific. This is Vince Russo classic. The question is it Russo at his best or is it Russo at his worst? That's the question. This was a 100% swerve. Finn Balor came into the Judgment Day, immediately kicked Edge out. That means whatever conversation he had with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley was strong enough to get them to turn on Edge immediately. That's crazy. Now, outside the ring, there's, of course, the cynical people who say, well, Cody tore his pec. WWE needs a top babyface. Edge is perfect for that role. Sure, but so was Finn Balor. But Finn Balor also needed to turn heel. If you're saying that Cody is down and we need another top babyface, okay, yeah, Edge could be one of those guys, but you already had Finn Balor was already a babyface. AJ Styles was already a babyface. You're getting Cena back in 3 weeks. You could have bluffed and bullshitted for 3 weeks and just had Cena fill that spot. So what makes it Russo-rific was the speed in which it occurred. Sometimes, especially if you watch some of the Attitude Era or the WCW, the heel turns, they seemingly come out of nowhere. And then you have the drama of having to explain them later, which is what this is. This is one of those things where your reaction to it is like instantaneous confusion and you're not entirely sure where you land on it. Because some people just loved Judgment Day as a faction and didn't like the idea of breaking it up, period. Like, breaking up Judgment Day is not good. I love Judgment Day. I think WWE typically has something and they just in a rush to destroy it. Judgment Day is white folks' hurt business. This thing had so much potential with Edge, working heel in a part-time role. This thing had legs to it. They could have done this for 1.5 years, 2 years of just letting it run. They cut it off less than 6 months. Less than 6 months they got rid of it. Now, hard to say that they got rid of it as much as they just replaced Edge. But Edge was the part that worked, that everybody was interested in when it comes to, his heel persona, his heel work. He cut his hair and changed his music for this gimmick. And all of a sudden they're like, you know what? Nah, abandon ship. It's like, wait a minute. Slow down, boss. We done went through all this. We should have just let it breathe. Now, if this was the plan from the beginning, I don't see how we got here. I really don't, because I'm looking at the characters. Like Damian Priest turned heel because of Finn Balor. Now maybe that's going to be the explanation that Finn Balor learned something from Damian Priest or taught him something or something like that. They have some type of connection due to Damian Priest winning the U.S. title from him, which is entirely, no, the other way around. Finn Balor won the title from Damian Priest. So that makes sense. We might be able to do something with that. But what's the connection with Rhea Ripley? I don't know. And I'm in this position like, okay, we're at a loss here. We need answers. But it's episodic television, which means that you got to tune in next week to get the answers. And so we're sitting here, everybody's trying to jump to conclusions again. Oh, they just needed a new baby face. And, oh, this was too fast. It was too much of a swerve. And it's like, I agree. It was entirely too fast. I do believe it was Russo-rific. Some people think that it was Russo at his worst. I think that it is kind of Russo at his worst. I liked it, though. Like, I think this was, because you didn't see it coming, it was perfect. Once you let it sit in for a second or two, you're like, I don't see how this makes sense. I really don't. But at the same time, I like it because I don't like Finn Balor being a lackey. Like Damian Priest, whatever. Rhea Ripley, whatever. But I don't like the idea of, Finn Balor being a lackey. And also you have to explain why he was fighting these people the day before. So you're in this situation where, like I said, I think I said on Twitter, it's not quite Rollins turning on the Shield, right? Because Rollins selling out the Shield was plan B for Triple H. Triple H had this plan to get rid of the Shield and to, gain control of the WWE, within the ring as far as the championship and everything, as much as he does in the boardroom. And that was perfectly fine. Those two things dovetailed perfectly. Like, think about the poetics of it. You had Seth Rollins, who was the future of WWE, and these guys were fighting evolution. Evolution means progress going forward. And, the Shield was the progression or the evolution of the stable and the WWE. They jumped off a whole new era, kind of, which I don't give them enough credit for doing that. Because remember, the Shield was the main event guys from the moment they broke up till today. Shield guys are still in the main event of these pay-per-views and involved in big feuds with each other. And that's the long, overarching story of the last, almost 10 years has been the Shield. The Shield's breakup and what's that meant to everybody that was involved. Now, of course, unlike Evolution, which was able to continue because nobody really left, so, until Batista finally went to Hollywood, but everybody was still there. So you got Triple H and Ric Flair feuding, and Triple H and Batista, and Triple H and Randy and Rick, and Rick and Batista, and Randy and Batista, and you got to see those mix-ups, all that mix-up. And you got to see that with the Shield, too. You got to see the mixing. But you never got heel Dean Ambrose and babyface, Roman Reigns. You never really got that. And that was kind of cut short because of Moxley leaving. But, the Shield era was sort of jumped off by Seth Rollins and with that swerve, and it made sense. So now in this situation, we're looking at this situation and we're saying to ourselves, if you were going to be in a stable and your stable is going to, teach you something, you are better off with Edge than Finn Balor. You really are, because Edge knows the system, 2-time Hall of Famer, 13, 14 world titles or whatever. He has an immense resume in comparison to Finn Balor. But Finn Balor is not a young boy that could be, getting Edge coffee, and he's not that guy, so I don't know, like him being in the group is excellent. The trio of Rhea, Balor, and Priest, that's fantastic. I love that. I like the outcome. I'm concerned that we're not going to get a good explanation of how we got there. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about us not having a good explanation to how we got there. If we're just going to say guys who were disgruntled because, things weren't going their way, then yeah, Finn Balor is chief among them. And this goes back to when the top rope broke at Extreme Rules. Hopefully that's the reason Finn Balor turned heel. Hopefully that's the reason. If somebody was to tell me, Finn Balor on Monday Night Raw is going to say, when that top rope broke and I looked like a fool in my match with Roman Reigns and nobody tried to explain it, when John Cena was able to steal my title match, I wasn't feeling that. Like fuck this place. Something needs to change. Then I would say absolutely, positively, I'm all in. But other than that, I don't know. I will learn to love the group because I like the players in it, but I also would like to like the story. Like that's the thing. It's one thing to love, like, oh, I like Edge, I like Balor, I like Priest, I like Rhea, I like, AJ Styles. Liv Morgan is a thing that exists in WWE. She's there. She's present. So the players, I don't have a problem with that. I have a fucking problem with the story not being there. Not taking your time to show how Finn Balor rotted the group from the inside. How his message is going to be different from how his message and his philosophy actually fits them better than Edge. Now, I know this is kind of typical Bullet Club stuff, which I think is where we're going with this, is that Bullet Club typically features people who turn on other people. Bullet Club is all about, turning on your best friend, stabbing your best friend in the back and that kind of shit. And maybe that's where we're going here. And I think they're going to end up changing the name of the group too, which ought to be nice. But I'm saying we put all this time, money, and effort into Edge turning heel, and now we just kind of pissing it all away and hoping that, we get enough sympathy from all the damage they did to Edge that by the time he comes back, he's going to be, you think you know me. But I think he's just going to be a babyface version of this same character. That's what I think. I don't think they're going to change him back to the Edge that he was before. But I'm 100% down for the summer feud of Finn Balor and Edge. So I love all of the players. I don't love the story. I want to love the story. I want to wait for them to tell me what the story is and what the reasoning is. But it was a hellacious swerve. It was crazy. And it really should have ended the show. If it's bullshit, you not. It was hard for me to care about anything after this. Because all I could talk about was like, man, why did they do this? Like if they didn't went off the air with Balor standing over Edge and all this kind of stuff, I'd have been like, oh my God. You're like, oh my God. Because the Judgment Day symbol is Edge's old logo. So they're going to change all of that. And it's going to be a while, And they're still calling them the Judgment Day. So I don't know what's going on. Somebody said they should call them Judgment Club, and I would think like, okay, I don't hate the sound of that, but I really want to see how they manage to explain this in a way that makes sense. Otherwise, it's just going to be a Russo-rific swerve for the sake of swerves, but it doesn't feel like a swerve for the sake of swerves. It's like they may actually have something here. But I'm mostly thankful that they gave Finn his voice back. Thank you for finding his voice. All right, let's finally move on. Omos and Cedric Alexander. It was an absolute squash. Then the Dirty Dogs showed back up. Nothing short of confusion because people didn't know that they still worked there. As a matter of fact, I think more people was confused because they had heard that Robert Roode was back to doing the Glorious gimmick, and he's back in the Dirty Dogs, just like that. They go over to the Okerlund position. The Okerlund position, which is, the old WWF Wrestling Challenge, the Superstars camera angle. I loved it. This seemed rushed, though, because the Dirty Dogs are over there talking. MVP showed up and says that they're wasting precious camera time on these clowns, to which he got super kicked. And Omos got very mad, and then they all ran away. And I was like, okay. Is that all? That it? All right, you done? Are you finished? Is your mission complete? You done here? All right. Moving on. Otis lost to Ezekiel via the crucifix. Otis has a new goatee and sideburn set. He still looks like giant Bobby Hill. There's nothing he can do that's gonna make him look less babyface Bobby Hill. Corey Graves dubbed him the O-line, and I'm telling you, he's by the end of his chapter, Otis will have either a move called the O-line or a T-shirt called with the O-line on it. It's coming. Ezekiel got on the microphone after he won the match, and this was my favorite line of the night. He said that he lost to Kevin Owens, and, because he was a little nervous. He was all zeked up. Brother, do you don't know how many T-shirts this guy about to sell with this zeked up thing? He about to sell a ton of T-shirts. If they look cool, even remotely cool, he about to sell a ton of fucking merchandise off of zeked up. That made me laugh. Kevin Owens came out there and said, "Oh, you want a rematch? You got to admit that you're Elias." So, with some hand wringing, Ezekiel admitted to being Elias, to which Kevin was like, yes. Finally, you admit it. You admit it. You're Elias. Then Ezekiel says that, is our match official? Kevin Owens said, yeah. After that, Ezekiel said, that time I told you that I was Elias. Took a page out of your playbook. I lied. And then he knocked Kevin Owens down. I was like, all right. Somebody did ask a very important question about this whole Ezekiel Kevin Owens thing. I saw it on Twitter. It's a very interesting question. Why does Kevin Owens care about this so much? And that's the one thing, we just kind of got wrapped up in how silly this storyline is. That's a major, major question. He's going through such great lengths to prove this guy is Elias. And it's why? Why does he care? Why does he give a shit whether this guy is calling himself Elias or not? Even if you want to say, well, he hates liars, which is, I think, the answer that he was given, is that Kevin Owens hates liars. It's that's not good enough. This has been months and, a week, several weeks of him stalking this guy. He stole locks of his hair to get a DNA test. He cares too much. He's too invested in Ezekiel's life. He's just way too invested. We need the explanation of why. If he could say he was Elias's best friend or something like that, or him and Elias were best good buds, even though they said they have history, they never said that they were best friends or anything like that. They knew each other or something. At least that way we could say, all right, Kevin Owens is in kayfabe, knows that Elias is going through a thing or hadn't talked to him in a long time, and then Ezekiel shows up and he's like, wait a minute, you're Elias. And he's like, no, I'm not. But it could be very interesting, but I guess we'll have to see when we get there. All right. The main event of the evening, a fatal 4-way match. The winner will wrestle Bianca Belair at Money in the Bank. Did you think that they were going to build this match up at all? They didn't. Did they do any promos for this match? No. Did you do any vignettes for this match? No. They just announced it and then put it on at the end of the show because reasons. So we're not going to try to attempt to tell any type of story with this thing. We're just going to do it. To which it is what it is. Sad. Rhea Ripley wins the match with a riptide on Dewdrop, which was, impressive. Rhea Ripley stares down Bianca Belair, who is standing in the dark alone. Thus, Balor and Priest are standing next to Rhea Ripley. And it was a great visual of Rhea Ripley finally about to get her run and staring down Bianca Belair, but she's got these guys on her side. Obviously, that means the Street Profits are going to step up to help Bianca Belair, which will elevate them and elevate their game. I like that. I love that, actually. So we're going to get the big summer feud. It's going to be Rhea and Bianca. They've been teasing this for over a year, actually, since Royal Rumble of 2020. They've been teasing this thing. So it shall come to pass that finally Rhea Ripley has enough momentum after turning on Edge that she can now safely challenge for the women's title. I expect her to win it. I know it's a little early to call that, but I'm going to do it anyway. I expect Rhea Ripley to win that title, and for Bianca to spend the rest of the summer chasing, maybe into the fall. I expect a long chase, and maybe, so. But this was fun. Rhea Ripley is getting a big push, as she should, because she's awesome. Her mannerisms are getting better. She was already good in the ring. Her promos need to improve a little bit. But for the most part, she's ready. Bianca about to have to take a step back again. But this time for all the right reasons. Because Rhea Ripley needs to be cemented. And beating Bianca is the best way to do it. Cheating her is even better. There's no doubt I think they're going to protect Bianca in the loss. They don't want to give up a, embarrassing loss like they did at SummerSlam last year. So they're going to protect her in the loss, but, it ought to be a fun one from Bianca and Rhea. And it's coming across like a main event. We know that the Money in the Banks are the main focus. But for them to imagine that this is the first match that they put together on the show, it's not Money in the Bank qualifiers or anything like that. It's let's settle up with the Raw Women's title. The same night we turn Rhea into a heel times 2 by having her, turn on her own mentor, Edge, and basically cannibalize him. This is a very important angle for them. And they're looking to really build on that. Good on them, good on them. So, the Money in the Bank, I don't know when they're going to start doing qualifiers, but I think it's in July. It's July the 2nd. So, not even in June anymore. Okay? But this show had a lot of interesting developments in it. A lot of interesting developments. Some really good dramatics, some swerves. Most people said this show was pretty good. The ring work was not good. Most of the matches were kept very short, because most of them were cold. So that was the right thing to do. But outside of maybe there were some other things I would have added, like, building up the main event by having women cut promos throughout the show, showing what they can do and all that kind of stuff, rather than some of the sillier things that we were doing. Maybe putting more effort into building up that women's match. That probably would have been my only real critique, is build up these matches before we do them. And WWE, they don't give a shit. So we care too much. They don't care enough. All right, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for stopping by. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.